What is she doing here? As if I didn't know. Where did you go? Mat demanded hoarsely. You all just disappeared, and now you're in Cairhien ahead of us. Loyal? The Ogier shrugged uncertainly and eyed the crowd, his ears twitching. Half the people had turned from the fire to watch the newcomers. A few edged closer, trying to listen. Rand let Perrin give him a hand up. How did you find the inn? He glanced at Verin, kneeling with her hands on the sniffer's head. Her, in a way, Perrin said. The guards at the gate wanted our names, and a fellow coming out of the guardhouse gave a jump when he heard Ingtar's name. He said he didn't know it, but he had a smile that shouted, "Lie a mile off." I think I know the man you mean, Rand said. He smiles that way all the time. Verin showed him her ring, Mat put in, and whispered in his ear. He looked and sounded sick, his cheeks flushed and tight, but he managed to grin. Rand had never noticed his cheekbones before. I couldn't hear what she said, but I didn't know whether his eyes were going to pop out of his head or he was going to swallow his tongue first. All of a sudden, he couldn't do enough for us. He told us you were waiting for us and right where you were staying. Offered to guide us himself, but he really looked relieved when Verin told him no. He snorted. Lord Rand of Household Thor. It's too long a story to explain now, Rand said. Where are Uno and the rest? We will need them, in the foregate. Mat frowned at him and went on slowly. Uno said they'd rather stay there than inside the walls. From what I can see, I'd rather be with them. Rand, why will we need Uno? Have you found, by Boyce, them? It was the moment Rand realized suddenly he had been avoiding. He took a deep breath and looked his friend in the eye. Mat, I had the dagger and I lost it. The Darkfriends took it back. He heard gasps from the Cairhien listening, but he did not care. They could play their great game if they wanted, but Ingtar had come, and he was finished with it at last. They can't have gone far, though. Ingtar had been silent, but now he stepped forward and gripped Rand's arm. You had it? And he looked around at the onlookers, the other thing? They took that back too, Rand said quietly. Ingtar pounded a fist into his palm and turned away. Some of the Cairhien backed off from the look on his face. Mat chewed his lip, then shook his head. I didn't know it was found, so it isn't as if I had lost it again. It is just still lost. It was plain he was speaking of the dagger, not the Horn of Valere. We'll find it again. We have 2 sniffers now. Perrin is one, too. He followed the trail all the way to the foregate, after you vanished with Hurin and Loial. I thought you might have just run off. By Boyce. Well, you know what I mean. Where did you go? I still don't understand how you got so far ahead of us. That fellow said you had been here days. Rand glanced at Perrin. He's a sniffer, and found Perrin studying him in return. He thought Perrin muttered something. Shadow killer? I must have heard him wrong. Perrin's yellow gaze held him for a moment, seeming to hold secrets about him, telling himself he was having fancies. I'm not mad. Not yet. He pulled his eyes away. Perrin was just helping a still shaky Hurin to his feet. I feel right as goose feathers, he was saying. Still a little tired, but by Boyce. He let the words trail off, seeming to see her for the first time, to realize what had happened for the first time. The tiredness will last a few hours, she told him. The body must strain to heal itself quickly. The Cairhien reader rose. Sedai, she said softly. Verin inclined her head, and the reader made a full curtsy. As quiet as they had been, the words Sedai ran through the crowd in tones ranging from awe to fear to outrage. Everyone was watching now. Not even Quale gave any attention to his own burning in, and Rand thought a little caution might not be amiss after all. Do you have rooms yet? He asked. We need to talk, and we can't do it here. A good idea, Verin said. I have stayed here before, at the great tree. We will go there. Loial went to fetch the horses. The inn roof had now fallen in completely, but the stables had not been touched, and soon they were making their way through the streets, all riding except for Loial, who claimed he had grown used to walking again. Perrin held the lead line to one of the pack horses they had brought south. Hurin, Rand said, how soon can you be ready to follow their trail again? Can you follow it? The men who hit you and started the fire left a trail, didn't they? I can follow it now, my lord, and I could smell them in the street. It won't last long, though. There weren't any Trollocs, and they didn't kill anybody. Just men, my lord. Darkfriends, I suppose, but you can't always be sure of that by smell. A day, maybe, before it fades. I don't think they can open the chest either, Rand, Loial said, or they would just have taken the horn. It would be much easier to take that if they could, rather than the whole chest. Rand nodded. They must have put it in a cart, or on a horse. Once they get it beyond the foregate, they'll join the Trollocs again for sure. You will be able to follow that trail, Hurin. I will, my lord. Then you rest until you're fit, Rand told him. The sniffer looked steadier, but he rode slumped, and his face was weary. At best, they will only be a few hours ahead of us. If we ride hard, by Boyce. Suddenly he noticed that the others were looking at him, Verin and Ingtar, Mat and Perrin. He realized what he had been doing, and his face colored. I am sorry, Ingtar. It's just that I've become used to being in charge, I suppose. I'm not trying to take your place. Ingtar nodded slowly. Moraine chose well when she made Lord Aegomar name you my second. Perhaps it would have been better if the Amelin seat had given you the charge. The Shianaran barked a laugh. At least you have actually managed to touch the horn. After that they rode in silence. The great tree could have been twin to the defender of the Dragon Wall, a tall stone cube of a building with a common room panelled in dark wood and decorated with silver, a large polished clock on the mantel over the fireplace. The innkeeper could have been Quale's sister. Mistress Tiedra had the same slightly plump look, and the same unctuous manner, and the same sharp eyes, the same air of listening to what was behind the words you spoke. But Tiedra knew Verin, and her welcoming smile for the Aes Sedai was warm. She never mentioned Aes Sedai aloud, but Rand was sure she knew. Tiedra and a swarm of servants saw to their horses and settled them in their rooms. Rand's room was as fine as the one that had burned, but he was more interested in the big copper bathtub. 2 serving men wrestled through the door, and the steaming buckets of water scullery maids brought up from the kitchen. One look in the mirror above the washstand showed him a face that looked as if he had rubbed it with charcoal, and his coat had black smears across the red wool. He stripped off and climbed into the tub, but he thought as much as washed. Verin was there, one of 3 Aes Sedai that he could trust not to try to gentle him themselves, or turn him over to those who would, or so it seemed at least. One of 3 who wanted him to believe he was the dragon reborn, to use him as a false dragon. She's Moiraine's eyes watching me, Moiraine's hand trying to pull my strings. But I have cut the strings. His saddlebags had been brought up, and a bundle from the pack-horse containing fresh clothes. He toweled off and opened the bundle, and sighed. He had forgotten that both the other coats he had were as ornate as the one he had tossed on the back of a chair for a maid to clean. After a moment he chose the black coat to suit his mood. Silver herons stood on the high collar, and silver rapids ran down his sleeves, water battered to froth against jagged rocks. Transferring things from his old coat to his new, he found the parchments. Absently, he stuffed the invitations in his pocket as he studied Celine's 2 letters. He wondered how he could have been such a fool. She was the beautiful young daughter of a noble house. He was a shepherd whom Aes Sedai were trying to use, a man doomed to go mad if he did not die first. Yet he could still feel the pull of her just looking at her writing, could almost smell the perfume of her. I am a shepherd, he told the letters, not a great man, and if I could marry anyone, it would be Egwene, but she wants to be Aes Sedai, and how can I marry any woman, love any woman, when I'll go mad and maybe kill her? Words could not lessen his memory of Celine's beauty, though, or the way she made his blood go warm just by looking at him. It almost seemed to him that she was in the room with him, that he could smell her perfume, so much so that he looked around and laughed to find himself alone. Having fancies like I'm addled already, he muttered. Abruptly he tipped back the mantle of the lamp on the bedside table, lit it, and thrust the letters into the flame. Outside the inn, the wind picked up to a roar, leaking in through the shutters and fanning the flames to engulf the parchment. Hurriedly he tossed the burning letters into the cold hearth just before the fire reached his fingers. He waited until the last blackened curl went out before he buckled on his sword and left the room. Verin had taken a private dining room where shelves along the dark walls held even more silver than those in the common room. Mat was juggling 3 boiled eggs and trying to appear nonchalant. Ingtar peered into the unlit fireplace, frowning. Loial had a few books from Valdara still in his pockets and was reading one beside a lamp. Perrin slouched at the table, studying his hands clasped on the tabletop. To his nose, the room smelled of beeswax used to polish the paneling. It was him, he thought. Rand is the shadow killer. Light, what's happening to all of us? His hands tightened into fists, large and square. These hands were meant for a smith's hammer, not an axe. He glanced up as Rand entered. Perrin thought he looked determined, set on some course of action. The Aes Sedai motioned Rand to a high-backed armchair across from her. "How is Hurin?" Rand asked her, arranging his sword so he could sit. "Resting? He insisted on going out," Ingtar answered. "I told him to follow the trail only until he smelled Trollocs. We can follow it from there tomorrow. Or do you want to go after them tonight?" "Ingtar," Rand said uneasily, "I really wasn't trying to take command. I just didn't think." Yet not as nervously as he would have once, Perrin thought. Shadow killer, we're all of us changing. Ingtar did not answer, but only kept staring into the fireplace. "There are some things that interest me greatly, Rand," Verin said quietly. "One is how you vanished from Ingtar's camp without a trace. Another is how you arrived in Cairhien a week before us. That clerk was very clear on that. You would have had to fly." One of Mat's eggs hit the floor and cracked. He did not look at it, though. He was looking at Rand, and Ingtar had turned around. Loial pretended to be reading still, but he wore a worried look, and his ears were up in hairy points. Perrin realized he was staring too. "Well, he did not fly," he said. "I don't see any wings. Maybe he has more important things to tell us." Verin shifted her attention to him just for a moment. He managed to meet her eyes, but he was the first to look away. Aes Sedai. Light. Why were we ever fools enough to follow an Aes Sedai? Rand gave him a grateful look too, and Perrin grinned at him. He was not the old Rand. He seemed to have grown into that fancy coat. It looked right on him now. But he was still the boy Perrin had grown up with. Shadow killer. A man the wolves hold in awe. A man who can channel. "I don't mind," Rand said, and told his tale simply. Perrin found himself gaping. Portal stones. Other worlds where the land seemed to shift. Hurin following the trail of where the Darkfriends would be. And a beautiful woman in distress, just like one in a gleeman's tale. Mat gave a soft, wondering whistle. "And she brought you back. By one of these stones." Rand hesitated for a second. "She must have," he said. "So you see, that's how we got so far ahead of you. When Fain came, Loial and I managed to steal back the Horn of Valere in the night, and we rode on to Cairhien because I didn't think we could make it past them once they were roused, and I knew Ingtar would keep coming south after them and reach Cairhien eventually." Shadow killer. Rand looked at him, eyes narrowing, and Perrin realized he had spoken the name aloud. Apparently not loud enough for anyone else to hear, though. No one else glanced at him. He found himself wanting to tell Rand about the wolves. "I know about you. It's only fair you know my secret too." But Verin was there. He could not say it in front of her. "Interesting," the Aes Sedai said, a thoughtful expression on her face. "I would very much like to meet this girl. If she can use a portal stone, by Boyce, even that name is not very widely known." She gave herself a shake. "Well, that is for another time. A tall girl should not be difficult to find in the Cairhien houses." "Ah, here is our meal." Perrin smelled lamb even before Mistress Tiedra led in a procession bearing trays of food. His mouth watered more for that than for the peas and squash, the carrots and cabbage that came with it, or the hot, crusty rolls. He still found vegetables tasty, but sometimes, of late, he dreamed of red meat, not even cooked usually. It was disconcerting to find himself thinking that the nicely pink slices of lamb that the innkeeper carved were too well done. He firmly took helpings of everything, and 2 of the lamb. It was a quiet meal, with everyone concentrating on his own thoughts. Perrin found it painful to watch Mat eat. Mat's appetite was as healthy as ever, despite the feverish flush to his face, and the way he shoveled food into his mouth made it look like his last meal before dying. Perrin kept his eyes on his plate as much as possible and wished they had never left Emond's Field. After the maids cleared the table and left again, Verin insisted they remain together until Hurin returned. "He may bring word that will mean we must move at once." Mat returned to his juggling and Loial to his reading. Rand asked the innkeeper if there were any more books, and she brought him The Travels of Jane Farstrider. Perrin liked that one too, with its stories of adventures among the seafolk and journeys to the lands beyond the Aiel Waste, where silk came from. He did not feel like reading, though, so he set up a stones board on the table with Ingtar. The Shienaran played with a slashing, daring style. Perrin had always played doggedly, giving ground reluctantly, but he found himself placing the stones with as much recklessness as Ingtar. Most of the games ended in a draw, but he managed to win as many as Ingtar did. The Shienaran was eyeing him with a new respect by early evening, when the sniffer returned. Hurin's grin was at the same time triumphant and perplexed. "I found them, Lord Ingtar," thought Rand. "I tracked them to their lair." "Lair?" Ingtar said sharply. "You mean they're hiding somewhere close by?" "Aye, Lord Ingtar. The ones who took the horn I followed straight there, and there was Trollocs sent all around the place, though sneaking as if they didn't dare be seen even there." "And no wonder." The sniffer took a deep breath. "It's the great manor Lord Barthanes just finished building." "Lord Barthanes!" Ingtar exclaimed. "But he, by Boyce, he's by Boyce, he's by Boyce. There are Darkfriends among the high as well as the low," Verin said smoothly. "The mighty give their souls to the shadow as often as the weak." Ingtar scowled as if he did not want to think of that. "There's guards," Hurin went on. "We'll not get in with 20 men, not, and get out again. 100 could do it, but 2 would be better." "That's what I think, my lord." "What about the king?" Mat demanded. "If this Barthanes is a Darkfriend, the king will help us." "I am quite sure," Verin said dryly, "that Ogier and Reunited would move against Barthanes Damodred on the rumor that Barthanes is a Darkfriend, and glad of the excuse. I'm also quite sure Ogier would never let the Horn of Valere out of his grasp once he had it. He would bring it out on feast days to show the people and tell them how great and mighty Cairhien is, and no one would ever see it else." Perrin blinked with shock. "But the Horn of Valere has to be there when the last battle is fought. He couldn't just keep it." "I know little of Cairhien," Ingtar told him, "but I've heard enough of Ogier. He would feast us and thank us for the glory we had brought to Cairhien. He would stuff our pockets with gold and heap honors on our heads. And if we tried to leave with the horn, he'd cut our honored heads off without pausing to take a breath." Perrin ran a hand through his hair. The more he found out about kings, the less he liked them. "What about the dagger?" Mat asked diffidently. "He wouldn't want that, would he?" Ingtar glared at him and he shifted uncomfortably. "I know the horn is important, but I'm not going to be fighting in the last battle. That dagger? By Boyce. Verin rested her hands on the arms of her chair. "Ogier shall not have it either. What we need is somewhere inside Barthanes' manor house. If we can only find the horn, we may also find a way to take it back." "Yes, Mat, and the dagger. Once it is known that an Aes Sedai is in the city, well, I usually avoid these things, but if I let slip to Tiedra that I would like to see Barthanes' new manor, I should have an invitation in a day or 2. It should not be difficult to bring at least some of the rest of you. What is it, Hurin?" The sniffer had been rocking anxiously on his heels from the moment she mentioned an invitation. "Lord Rand already has one, from Lord Barthanes." Perrin stared at Rand, and he was not the only one. Rand pulled 2 sealed parchments from his coat pocket and handed them to the Aes Sedai without a word. Ingtar came to look wonderingly over her shoulder at the seals. Barthanes and by Boyce, and Galdrian. "Rand, how did you come by these?" "What have you been doing?" "Nothing," Rand said. "I haven't done anything. They just sent them to me." Ingtar let out a long breath. Mat's mouth was hanging open. "Well, they did just send them," Rand said quietly. There was a dignity to him that Perrin did not remember. Rand was looking at the Aes Sedai and the Shienaran Lord as equals. Perrin shook his head. "You are fitting that coat. We're all changing." "Lord Rand burned all the rest," Hurin said. "Every day they came, and every day he burned them. Until these, of course. Every day from mightier houses." He sounded proud. "The wheel of time weaves us all into the pattern as it wills," Verin said, looking at the parchments. "But sometimes it provides what we need before we know we need it." Casually, she crumpled the king's invitation and tossed it into the fireplace, where it lay white on the cold logs. Breaking the other seal with her thumb, she read, "Yes, yes, this will do very well." "How can I go?" Rand asked her. "They will know I'm no lord. I am a shepherd and a farmer." Ingtar looked skeptical. "I am Ingtar. I told you I am." Ingtar shrugged. He still did not look convinced. Hurin stared at Rand with flat disbelief. Burn me, Perrin thought. If I didn't know him, I wouldn't believe it either. Mat was watching Rand with his head tilted, frowning as if looking at something he had never seen before. He sees it too now. "You can do it, Rand," Perrin said. "You can. It will help," Verin said, "if you don't tell everyone what you are not. People see what they expect to see. Beyond that, look them in the eye and speak firmly. The way you've been talking to me," she added dryly, and Rand's cheeks colored, but he did not drop his eyes. "It doesn't matter what you say. They will attribute anything out of place to your being an outlander. It will also help if you remember the way you behaved before the Amelin. If you are that arrogant, they will believe you are a lord if you wear rags." Mat snickered. Rand threw up his hands. "All right, I'll do it. But I still think they will know 5 minutes after I open my mouth." "When?" "Barthanes has asked you for 5 different dates, and one is tomorrow night." "Tomorrow!" Ingtar exploded. "The Horn could be 50 miles downriver by tomorrow night, or..." Verin cut him off. "Uno and your soldiers can watch the manor. If they try to take the Horn anywhere, we can easily follow and perhaps retrieve it more easily than from inside Barthanes' walls." "Perhaps so," Ingtar agreed grudgingly. "I just do not like to wait, now that the Horn is almost in my hands. I will have it. I must. I must." Hurin stared at him. "But, Lord Ingtar, that isn't the way. What happens, happens, and what is meant to be, will." Ingtar's glare cut him off, though he still muttered under his breath, "It isn't the way, talking of must." Ingtar turned back to Verin stiffly. Verin Sedai, Cairhien, are very strict in their protocol. If Rand does not send a reply, Barthanes may be so insulted he will not let us in, even with that parchment in our hands. But if Rand does, by Boyce, well, Fain at least knows him. We could be warning them to set a trap. We will surprise them." Her brief smile was not pleasant. "But I think Barthanes will want to see Rand in any case. Darkfriend or not, I doubt he has given up plots against the throne. Rand, he says you took an interest in one of the king's projects, but he doesn't say what. What does he mean?" "I don't know," Rand said slowly. "I haven't done anything at all since I arrived." "Wait, maybe he means the statue. We came through a village where they were digging up a huge statue. From the age of legends, they said. The king means to move it to Cairhien, though I don't know how he can move something that big. But all I did was ask what it was. We passed it in the day and did not stop to ask questions." Verin let the invitation fall in her lap. "Not a wise thing for Goldrian to do, perhaps, unearthing that. Not that there is any real danger, but it is never wise for those who don't know what they are doing to meddle with things from the Age of Legends." "What is it?" Rand asked. "A Sa Angreal." She sounded as if it were really not very important, but Perrin suddenly had the feeling the two of them had entered a private conversation, saying things no one else could hear. One of a pair, the 2 largest ever made that we know of, and an odd pair as well. One, still buried on Tremalking, can only be used by a woman. This one can only be used by a man. They were made during the War of the Powers, to be a weapon. But if there is anything to be thankful for in the end of that age or the breaking of the world, it is that the end came before they could be used. Together, they might well be powerful enough to break the world again, perhaps even worse than the first breaking. Perrin's hands tightened to knots. He avoided looking directly at Rand, but even from the corner of his eye he could see a whiteness around Rand's mouth. He thought Rand might be afraid, and he did not blame him a bit. Ingtar looked shaken, as well he might. That thing should be buried again, and as deeply as they can pile dirt and stone. What would have happened if Logain had found it? Or any wretched man who can channel, let alone one claiming he's the dragon reborn. Verin Sedai, you must warn Galdrian what he's doing. What? Oh, there is no need for that, I think. The two must be used in unison to handle enough of the one power to break the world. That was the way in the Age of Legends. A man and a woman working together were always 10 times as strong as they were apart. And what Aes Sedai today would aid a man in channeling. One by itself is powerful enough, but I can think of few women strong enough to survive the flow through the one on Tremalking. The Amilin, of course, Moraine and Elaida, perhaps 1 or 2 others, and 3 still in training. As for Loghain, it would have taken all his strength simply to keep from being burned to a cinder, with nothing left for doing anything. No, Ingtar, I don't think you need worry. At least not until the real Dragon Reborn proclaims himself, and then we will all have enough to worry about as it is. Let us worry now about what we shall do when we are inside Barthanes' manor. She was talking to Rand. Perrin knew it, and from the queasy look in Mat's eye, he did too. Even Loial shifted nervously in his chair. Oh, light, Rand, Perrin thought. Light, don't let her use you. Rand's hands were pressing the tabletop so hard that his knuckles were white, but his voice was steady. His eyes never left the Aes Sedai. First we have to take back the horn and the dagger, and then it is done, Verin. Then it is done. Watching Verin's smile, small and mysterious, Perrin felt a chill. He did not think Rand knew half what he thought he did. Not half. Dangerous words. Lord Barthanes' manor crouched like a huge toad in the night, covering as much ground as a fortress, with all its walls and outbuildings. It was no fortress, though, with tall windows everywhere, and lights, and the sounds of music and laughter drifting out, yet Rand saw guards moving on the tower tops and along the roof walks, and none of the windows were close to the ground. He got down from Red's back and smoothed his coat, adjusted his sword belt. The others dismounted around him at the foot of broad, white stone stairs leading up to the wide, heavily carved doors of the manor. 10 Shienarans, under Uno, made an escort. The one-eyed man exchanged small nods with Ingtar before taking his men to join the other escorts, where ale had been provided, and a whole ox was roasting on a spit by a big fire. The other 10 Shienarans had been left behind along with Perrin. Every one of them had to be there for a purpose, Verin had said, and Perrin had no purpose to serve this night. An escort was necessary for dignity in Cairhien eyes, but more than 10 would seem suspicious. Rand was there because he had received the invitation. Ingtar had come to lend the prestige of his title, while Loial was there because Ogier was sought after in the upper reaches of the Cairhien nobility. Hurin pretended to be Ingtar's body servant. His true purpose was to sniff out the Darkfriends and Trollocs if he could. The Horn of Valere should not be far from them. Mat, still grumbling about it, was pretending to be Rand's servant, since he could feel the dagger when it was close. If Hurin failed, perhaps he could find the Darkfriends. When Rand had asked Verin why she was there, she had only smiled and said, "To keep the rest of you out of trouble." As they mounted the stairs, Mat muttered, "I still don't see why I have to be a servant." He and Hurin followed behind the others. "Burn me, if Rand can be a lord, I can put on a fancy coat too." "A servant," Verin said, without looking back at him, "can go many places, another man cannot, and many nobles will not even see him. You and Hurin have your tasks. Be quiet now, Mat," Ingtar put in, "unless you want to give us away." They were approaching the doors, where half a dozen guards stood with the tree and crown of House Damodred on their chests, and an equal number of men in dark green livery with tree and crown on the sleeve. Taking a deep breath, Rand proffered the invitation. "I am Lord Rand of House Thor," he said, all in a rush, to get it over with. "And these are my guests. Verin Aes Sedai of the Brown Ajar, Lord Ingtar of House Shinua in Shianar, Loial, son of Aron, son of Halan, from Stedding Shangtai." Loial had asked that his Stedding be left out of it, but Verin insisted they needed every bit of formality they could offer. The servant who had reached for the invitation with a perfunctory bow gave a little jerk at each additional name. His eyes popped at Verin's. In a strangled voice he said, "Be welcome in House Damodred, my lords. Be welcome, Aes Sedai. Be welcome, friend Ogier." He waved the other servants to open the doors wide and bowed Rand and the others inside, where he hurriedly passed the invitation to another liveried man and whispered in his ear. This man had the tree and crown large on the chest of his green coat. "Aes Sedai," he said, using his long staff to make a bow, almost bending his head to his knees, to each of them in turn. "My lords, friend Ogier, I am called Ashin. Please to follow me." The outer hall held only servants, but Ashin led them to a great room filled with nobles, with a juggler performing at one end and tumblers at the other. Voices and music coming from elsewhere said these were not the only guests or the only entertainments. The nobles stood in twos and threes and fours, sometimes men and women together, sometimes only one or the other, always with careful space between, so no one could overhear what was said. The guests wore the dark Cairhien colours, each with bright stripes at least halfway down his or her chest, and some had them all the way to their waists. The women had their hair piled high in elaborate towers of curls, everyone different, and their dark skirts were so wide they would have had to turn sideways to pass through any doorway narrower than those of the manor. None of the men had the shaved heads of soldiers. They all wore dark velvet hats over long hair, some shaped like bells, others flat, and, as with the women, lace ruffles like dark ivory almost hid their hands. Ashin rapped his staff and announced them in a loud voice, "Verin first." They drew every eye. Verin wore her brown-fringed shawl, embroidered in grapevines. The announcement of an Aes Sedai sent a murmur through the lords and ladies, and made the juggler drop one of his hoops, though no one was watching him any longer. Loial received almost as many looks even before Ashin spoke his name. Despite the silver embroidery on collar and sleeves, the otherwise unrelieved black of Ram's coat made him seem almost stark beside the Cairhien, and his and Ingtar's swords drew many glances. None of the lords appeared to be armed. Rand heard the words "Heron" mark blade more than once. Some of the glances he was receiving looked like frowns. He suspected they came from men he had insulted by burning their invitations. A slim, handsome man approached. He had long greying hair, and multi-hued stripes crossed the front of his deep grey coat from his neck, almost to the hem just above his knees. He was extremely tall for a Cairhien, no more than half a head shorter than Rand, and he had a way of standing that made him seem even taller, with his chin up so he seemed to be looking down at everyone else. His eyes were black pebbles. He looked warily at Verin, though. "Grace honours me with your presence, Aes Sedai." Barthanes Damodred's voice was deep and sure. His gaze swept across the others. "I did not expect so distinguished a company. Lord Ingtar, friend Ogier." His bow to each was little more than a nod of the head. Barthanes knew exactly how powerful he was. "And you, my young Lord Rand. You excite much comment in the city and in the houses. Perhaps we will have a chance to talk this night." His tone said that he would not miss it if the chance never came, that he had not been excited to any comment, but his eyes slid a fraction before he caught them to Ingtar and Loial and to Verin. "Be welcome." He let himself be drawn away by a handsome woman who laid a beringed hand buried in lace on his arm, but his gaze drifted back to Rand as he walked away. The murmur of conversation picked up once more, and the juggler spun his hoops again in a narrow loop that almost reached the worked plaster ceiling, a good 4 spans up. The tumblers had never stopped. A woman leaped into the air from the cupped hands of one of her compatriots, her oiled skin shining in the light of 100 lamps as she spun, and landed on her feet on the hands of a man who was already standing atop another's shoulders. He lifted her up on outstretched arms as the man below raised him in the same way, and she spread her arms as if for applause. None of the Cairhien seemed to notice. Verin and Ingtar drifted into the crowd. The Shianaran received a few wary looks. Some looked at the Aes Sedai with wide eyes, others with the worried frowns of those finding a rabid wolf within arm's reach. The latter came from men more often than women, and some of the women spoke to her. Rand realized that Mat and Hurin had already disappeared to the kitchens, where all the servants who had come with the guests would be gathering until sent for. He hoped they would not have trouble sneaking away. Loial bent down to speak for his ear alone. "Rand, there is a Waygate nearby. I can feel it." "You mean this was an Ogier grove?" Rand said softly, and Loial nodded. Stedding Sofu had not been found again when it was planted, or the Ogier who helped build Al-Sher Rahi Enalen would not have needed a grove to remind them of the steading. This was all forest when I came through Cairhien before and belonged to the king. Barthanes probably took it away in some plot. Rand looked around the room nervously. Everyone was still talking, but more than a few were watching the Ogier and him. He could not see Ingtar. Verin stood at the center of a knot of women. I wish we could stay together. Verin says not, Rand. She says it would make them all suspicious and angry, thinking we were holding ourselves aloof. We have to allay suspicion until Mat and Hurin find whatever they find. I heard what she said, as well as you, Loial. But I still say if Barthanes is a Darkfriend, then he must know why we're here. Going off by ourselves is just asking to be knocked on the head. Verin says he won't do anything until he finds out whether he can make use of us. Just do what she told us, Rand. Sedai know what they are about. Loial walked into the crowd, gathering a circle of lords and ladies before he had gone 10 steps. Others started toward Rand now that he was alone, but he turned in the other direction and hurried away. Sedai may know what they're about, but I wish I did. I don't like this. Light, but I wish I knew if she was telling the truth. Sedai never lie, but the truth you hear may not be the truth you think it is. He kept moving to avoid talking with the nobles. There were many other rooms, all filled with lords and ladies, all with entertainers, 3 different gleemen in their cloaks, more jugglers and tumblers, and musicians playing flutes, bitterns, dulcimers, and lutes, plus 5 different sizes of fiddle, 6 kinds of horn, straight or curved or curled, and 10 sizes of drum from tambour to kettle. He gave some of the horn players a second look, those with curled horns, but the instruments were all plain brass. They wouldn't have the Horn of Valere out here, fool, he thought. Not unless Barthanes means to have dead heroes come as part of the entertainment. There was even a bard in silver-worked Tyren boots and a yellow coat, strolling through the rooms, plucking his harp, and sometimes stopping to declaim in high chant. He glared contemptuously at the gleeman and did not linger in the rooms where they were, but Rand saw little difference between him and them, except for their clothes. Suddenly Barthanes was walking by Rand's side. A liveried servant immediately offered his silver tray with a bow. Barthanes took a blown glass goblet of wine. Walking backwards ahead of them, still bowing, the servant held the tray toward Rand until Rand shook his head, then melted into the crowd. "You seem restless," Barthanes said, sipping. "I like to walk." Rand wondered how to follow Verin's advice, and remembering what she had said about his visit to the Amelin, he settled into Cat Crosses the courtyard. He knew no more arrogant way to walk than that. Barthanes' mouth tightened, and Rand thought perhaps the Lord found it too arrogant, but Verin's advice was all he had to go by, so he did not stop. "To take some of the edge off," he said pleasantly, "this is a fine party. You have many friends, and I've never seen so many entertainers." "Many friends," Barthanes agreed. "You can tell Galdrian how many and who. Some of the names might surprise him. I have never met the king, Lord Barthanes, and I don't expect I ever will. Of course. You just happened to be in that Fleisbeck village. You were not checking on the progress of retrieving that statue. A great undertaking, that. Yes." He had begun thinking of Verin again, wishing she had given him some advice on how to talk with a man who assumed he was lying. He added, without thinking, "It's dangerous to meddle with things from the Age of Legends if you don't know what you are doing." Barthanes peered into his wine, musing as if Rand had just said something profound. "Are you saying you do not support Galdrian in this?" he asked finally. "I told you I've never met the king." "Yes, of course. I did not know Anne Dorman played at the great game so well. We do not see many here in Cairhien." Rand took a deep breath to stop from telling the man angrily that he was not playing their game. "There are many grain barges from Andor in the river, merchants and traders. Who notices such as they? As well notice the beetles on the leaves." Barthanes' voice carried equal contempt for both beetles and merchants, but once again he frowned as if Rand had hinted at something. "Not many men travel in company with Sedai. You seem too young to be a warder. I suppose Lord Ingtar is Verin Sedai's warder." "We are who we said we are," Rand said, and grimaced. "Except me." Barthanes was studying Rand's face almost openly. Young to carry a heron-mark blade. "I'm less than a year old," Rand said automatically, and immediately wished he had it back. It sounded foolish to his ear, but Verin had said act as he had, with the Amelin seat, and that was the answer Lan had given him. A borderman considered the day he was given his sword to be his name day. So, an Andorman, and yet borderland trained. Or is it warder trained? Barthanes' eyes narrowed, studying Rand. I understand Morghese has only one son, named Goyin, I have heard. You must be much like him in age. I have met him, Rand said cautiously. Those eyes, that hair. I've heard the Andorran royal line has almost Aiel colouring in their hair and eyes. Rand stumbled, though the floor was smooth marble. I'm not Aiel, Lord Barthanes, and I'm not of the royal line either. As you say, you have given me much to think on. I believe we may find common ground when we talk again. Barthanes nodded and raised his glass in a small salute, then turned to speak to a grey-haired man with many stripes of colour down his coat. Rand shook his head and moved on, away from more conversation. It had been bad enough talking to one Cairhien lord, he did not want to risk two. Barthanes appeared to find deep meanings in the most trivial comments. Rand realized he had just now learned enough of Deus Daemar to know he had no idea at all how it was played. Matt, Hurin, find something fast, so we can get out of here. These people are crazy. And then he entered another room, and the gleeman at the end of it, strumming his harp and reciting a tale from The Great Hunt of the Horn, was Tom Merrilin. Rand stopped, dead. Tom did not seem to see him, though the gleeman's gaze passed over him twice. It seemed that Tom had meant what he said, a clean break. Rand turned to go, but a woman stepped smoothly in front of him and put a hand on his chest, the lace falling back from a soft wrist. Her head did not quite come to his shoulder, but her tall array of curls easily reached as high as his eyes. The high neck of her gown put lace ruffles under her chin, and stripes covered the front of her dark blue dress below her breasts. I am Elaine Chuliandrad, and you are the famous Rand al'Thor. In Barthanes' own manor, I suppose he has the right to speak to you first, but we are all fascinated by what we hear of you. I even hear that you play the flute. Can it be true? I play the flute. How did she, by Boyce, Caldevwyn, light? Everybody does hear everything in Cairhien. If you will excuse. I have heard that some outland lords play music, but I never believed it. I would like very much to hear you play. Perhaps you will talk with me of this and that. Barthanes seemed to find your conversation fascinating. My husband spends his days sampling his own vineyards and leaves me quite alone. He is never there to talk with me. You must miss him, Rand said, trying to edge around her in her wide skirts. She gave a tinkling laugh as if he had said the funniest thing in the world. Another woman sidled in beside the first, and another hand was laid on his chest. She wore as many stripes as Elaine, and they were of an age, a good 10 years older than he. Do you think to keep him to yourself, Elaine? The two women smiled at each other while their eyes threw daggers. The second turned her smile on Rand. I am Belivere Osielin. Are all Andormen so tall and so handsome? He cleared his throat. Ah, by Boyce, some are as tall. Pardon me, but if you will, I saw you talking with Barthanes. They say you know Galdrian as well. You must come to see me and talk. My husband is visiting our estates in the south. You have the subtlety of a tavern wench, Elaine hissed at her, and immediately was smiling up at Rand. She has no polish. No man could like a woman with a manner so rough. Bring your flute to my manor, and we will talk. Perhaps you will teach me to play? What Elaine thinks of as subtlety, Belivere said sweetly, is but lack of courage. A man who wears a heron-marked sword must be brave. That truly is a heron-marked blade, is it not? Rand tried backing away from them. If you will just excuse me, I... They followed step for step until his back hit the wall. The width of their skirts together made another wall in front of him. He jumped as a third woman crowded in beside the other two, her skirts joining theirs to the wall on that side. She was older than they, but just as pretty, with an amused smile that did not lessen the sharpness of her eyes. She wore half again as many stripes as Elaine and Belivere. They made tiny curtsies and glared at her sullenly. Are these two spiders trying to toil you in their webs? The older woman laughed. Half the time they tangle themselves more firmly than anyone else. Come with me, my fine young Andorran, and I will tell you some of the troubles they would give you. For one thing, I have no husband to worry about. Husbands always make trouble. Over Elaine's head he could see Tom, straightening from a bow to no applause or notice whatsoever. With a grimace, the gleeman snatched a goblet from the tray of a startled servant. "I see someone I must speak to," Rand told the women, and squeezed out of the box they had put him in just as the last woman reached for his arm. All three stared after him as he hurried to the gleeman. Tom eyed him over the lip of the goblet, then took another long swallow. "Tom, I know you said a clean break, but I had to get away from those women. All they wanted to talk about was their husbands being away, but they were already hinting at other things." Tom choked on his wine, and Rand slapped his back. "You drink too fast, and something always goes down the wrong way. Tom, they think I am plotting with Barthanes, or maybe Galdrian, and I don't think they will believe me when I say I'm not. I just needed an excuse to leave them." Tom stroked his long moustaches with one knuckle and peered across the room at the three women. They were still standing together, watching Rand and him. "I recognize those three, boy. Breen Tablewyn alone would give you an education such as every man should have at least once in his life, if he can live through it. Worried about their husbands? I like that, boy." Abruptly his eyes sharpened. "You told me you were clear of Aes Sedai. Half the talk here tonight is of the Andoran Lord appearing with no warning, and an Aes Sedai at his side. Barthanes and Galdrian. You've let the White Tower put you in the cooking pot this time. She only came yesterday, Tom. And as soon as the Horn is safe, I'll be free of them again. I mean to see to it." "You sound as if it isn't safe now," Tom said slowly. "You didn't sound that way before. Darkfriends stole it, Tom. They brought it here. Barthanes is one of them." Tom seemed to study his wine, but his eyes darted to make sure no one was close enough to listen. More than the three women were watching them with sideways glances while pretending to talk among themselves, but every knot maintained its distance from every other. Still, Tom spoke softly. "A dangerous thing to say if it isn't true, and more dangerous if it is. An accusation like that against the most powerful man in the kingdom. By Boyce, by Boyce, by Boyce. You say he has the horn? I suppose you're after my help again now that you're tangled with the White Tower once more." No, he had decided Tom had been right, even if the gleeman did not know why. He could not involve anyone else in his troubles. "I just wanted to get away from those women." The gleeman blew out his moustaches, taken aback. "Well, yes, that is well. The last time I helped you, I got a limp out of it, and you seem to have let yourself be tied to Tar Valon strings again. You'll have to get yourself out of it this time." He sounded as if he were trying to convince himself. "I will, Tom. I will. Just as soon as the horn is safe and Matt has that bloody dagger back. Matt, Hurin, where are you?" As if the thought had been a summons, Hurin appeared in the room, eyes searching among the lords and ladies. They looked through him. Servants did not exist unless needed. When he found Rand and Tom, he made his way between the small clusters of nobles and bowed to Rand. "My lord, I was sent to tell you. Your manservant had a fall and twisted his knee." "I don't know how bad, my lord." For a moment Rand stared before he understood. Conscious of all the eyes on him, he spoke loudly enough for the nobles closest to overhear. "Clumsy fool. What good is he to me if he can't walk? I suppose I'd better come see how badly he's hurt himself." It seemed to be the right thing to say. Hurin sounded relieved when he bowed again and said, "As my lord wishes. If my lord will follow me." "You play very well at being a lord," Tom said softly. "But remember this. Cairhien may play Deus Daemar, but it was the White Tower made the great game in the first place. Watch yourself, boy." With a glare at the nobles, he set his empty goblet on the tray of a passing servant and strode away, plucking his harp. He began reciting Goodwife Millie and the Silk Merchant. "Lead on, man," Rand told Hurin, feeling foolish. As he followed the sniffer out of the room, he could feel the eyes following him. "A message from the dark. Have you found it?" Rand asked as he followed Hurin down a cramped flight of stairs. The kitchens lay on the lower levels, and the servants who had come attending the guests had all been sent there. "Or is Matt really hurt?" "Oh, Matt's fine, Lord Rand." The sniffer frowned. "At least he sounds all right, and he grumbles like a hailman. I didn't mean to worry you, but I needed a reason for you to come below. I found the trail easy enough. The men who set fire to the inn all entered a walled garden behind the manor. Trollocs joined them, went into the garden with them. Sometime yesterday, I think, maybe even night before last. He hesitated. Lord Rand, they didn't come out again. They must still be in there. At the foot of the stairs, the sounds of the servants enjoying themselves drifted down the hall, laughter and singing. Someone had a bittern, strumming a raucous tune to clapping and the thump of dancing. There was no worked plaster or fine tapestries here, only bare stone and plain wood. Light in the halls came from rush torches, smoking the ceiling, and spread far enough apart that the light faded between them. "I'm glad you're talking to me naturally again," Rand said. "The way you have been bowing and scraping, I was beginning to think you were more Cairhien than the Cairhien." Hurin's face coloured. "Well, as to that, by Boyce. He glanced down the hall toward the noise and looked as if he wanted to spit. "They all pretend to be so proper, but by Boyce. Lord Rand, every one of them says he's loyal to his master or mistress, but they all hint they're willing to sell what they know or have heard. And when they have a few drinks in them, they'll tell you, all whispering in your ear, things about the lords and ladies they serve that'd fair make your hair stand on end. I know they're Cairhien, but I never heard of such goings-on. We will be out of here soon, Hurin." Rand hoped it was true. "Where is this garden?" Hurin turned down a side hall leading toward the back of the manor. "Did you bring Ingtar and the others down already?" The sniffer shook his head. Lord Ingtar had let himself be cornered by 6 or 7 of those who call themselves ladies. I couldn't get close enough to speak to him. And Verin Sedai was with Barthanes. She gave me such a look when I came near, I never even tried to tell her. They rounded another corner just then, and there were Loial and Matt, the Ogier, standing a little stooped for the lower ceiling. Loial's grin almost split his face. "There you are. Rand, I was never so glad to get away from anyone as from those people upstairs. They kept asking me if the Ogier were coming back, and if Galdrian had agreed to pay what was owed. It seems the reason all the Ogier stonemasons left is because Galdrian stopped paying them, except with promises. I kept telling them I didn't know anything about it, but half of them seemed to think that I was lying, and the other half that I was hinting at something. "We'll be out of here soon," Rand assured him. "Matt, are you all right?" His friend's face looked more hollow-cheeked than he remembered, even back at the inn, and his cheekbones more prominent. "I feel fine," Matt said grumpily, "but I certainly didn't have any trouble leaving the other servants. The ones who weren't asking if you starved me thought I was sick and didn't want to come too close. Have you sensed the dagger?" Rand asked. Matt shook his head glumly. "The only thing I've sensed is that somebody is watching me, most of the time. These people are as bad as Fades for sneaking around. Burn me, I nearly jumped out of my skin when Hurin told me he'd located the Darkfriends trail. Rand, I can't feel it at all, and I'd been through this bloody building from rafters to basement. That does not mean it isn't here, Matt. I put it in the chest with the horn, remember? Maybe that keeps you from feeling it. I don't think Fain knows how to open it, else he'd not have gone to the trouble of carrying the weight when he fled Faldara. Even that much gold isn't important beside the Horn of Valere. When we find the horn, we will find the dagger. You'll see. As long as I don't have to pretend to be your servant anymore," Matt muttered. "As long as you don't go mad and... by Boyce. He let the words die with a twist of his mouth. "Rand is not mad, Matt," Loial said. "The Cairhien would never have let him in here if he were not a lord. They are the ones who are mad." "I'm not mad," Rand said harshly. "Not yet. Hurin, show me this garden. This way, Lord Rand." They went out into the night by a small door that Rand had to duck to get through. Loial was forced to bend over and hunch his shoulders. There was enough light in yellow pools from the windows above for Rand to make out brick walks between square flower beds. The shadows of stables and other outbuildings bulked in the darkness to either side. Occasional fragments of music drifted out, from the servants below or from those entertaining their masters above. Hurin led them along the walks until even the dim glow failed, and they made their way by moonlight alone, their boots crunching softly on the brick. Bushes that would have been bright with flowers by daylight now made strange humps in the dark. Ram fingered his sword and did not let his eyes stay on any one spot too long. 100 Trollocs could be hiding around them unseen. He knew Hurin would have smelled Trollocs if they were there, but that did not help a great deal. If Barthanes was a Darkfriend, then at least some of his servants and guards had to be too, and Hurin could not always smell a Darkfriend. Darkfriends leaping out of the night would not be much better than Trollocs. "There, Lord Rand," Hurin whispered, pointing. Ahead, stone walls not much higher than Loial's head enclosed a square, perhaps 50 paces on a side. Rand could not be sure in the shadows, but it looked as if the gardens stretched on beyond the walls. He wondered why Barthanes had built a walled enclosure in the middle of his garden. No roof showed above the wall. Why would they go in there and stay? Loial bent to put his mouth close to Rand's ear. "I told you this was all an Ogier grove once. Rand, the Waygate is within that wall. I can feel it." Rand heard Matt sigh despairingly. "We can't give up, Matt," he said. "I'm not giving up. I just have enough brains not to want to travel the ways again." "We may have to," Rand told him. "Go find Ingtar and Verin. Get them alone somehow, I don't care how, and tell them I think Fain has taken the horn through a Waygate. Just don't let anyone else hear. And remember to limp. You are supposed to have had a fall." It was a wonder to him that even Fain would risk the ways, but it seemed the only answer. They wouldn't spend a day and a night just sitting in there, without a roof over their heads. Matt swept a low bow, and his voice was heavy with sarcasm. "At once, my lord. As my lord wishes. Shall I carry your banner, my lord?" He started back for the manor, his grumbles fading away. "Now I have to limp. Next it'll be a broken neck. Or, by Boyce. "He's just worried about the dagger, Rand," Loial said. "I know," Rand said. "But how long before he tells somebody what I am, not even meaning to?" He could not believe Matt would betray him on purpose. There was that much of their friendship left, at least. "Loial, boost me up where I can see over the wall. Rand, if the Darkfriends are still, they aren't. Boost me up, Loial." The three of them moved close to the wall, and Loial made a stirrup with his hands for Rand's foot. The Ogier straightened easily with the weight, lifting Rand's head just high enough to see over the top of the wall. The thin, waning moon gave little light, and most of the area was in shadow, but there did not seem to be any flowers or shrubs inside the walled square. Only a lone bench of pale marble, placed as if one man might sit on it to stare at what stood in the middle of the space, like a huge, upright stone slab. Rand caught the top of the wall and pulled himself up. Loial gave a low hiss and grabbed at his foot, but he jerked free and rolled over the wall, dropping inside. There was close-cropped grass under his feet. He thought vaguely that Barthanes must let sheep in, at least. Staring at the shadowed stone slab, the Waygate, he was startled to hear boots thump to the ground beside him. Hurin climbed to his feet, dusting himself off. "You should be careful doing that, Lord Rand. Could be anybody hiding in here." Or anything. He peered into the darkness within the walls, feeling at his belt as if for the short sword and swordbreaker he had had to leave at the inn. Servants did not go armed in Cairhien. Jump in a hole without looking, and there'll be a snake in it every time. "You would smell them," Rand said. "Maybe." The sniffer inhaled deeply. "But I can only smell what they've done, not what they intend." There was a scraping sound from over Rand's head, and then Loial was letting himself down from the wall. The Ogier did not even have to straighten his arms completely before his boots touched the ground. "Rash," he muttered. "You humans are always so rash and hasty, and now you have me doing it. Elder Haemon would speak to me severely, and my mother. By Boyce. The darkness hid his face, but Rand was sure his ears were twitching vigorously. "Rand, if you don't start being a little careful, you're going to get me in trouble." Rand walked to the Waygate, walked all the way around it. Even close up it looked like nothing more than a thick square of stone, taller than he was. The back was smooth and cool to the touch. He only brushed his hand against it quickly, but the front had been carved by an artist's hands. Vines, leaves and flowers covered it, each so finely done that in the dim moonlight they seemed almost real. He felt the ground in front of it. The grass had been scraped partly away in two arcs, such as those gates would make in opening. "Is that a Waygate?" Hurin asked uncertainly. "I've heard tell of them, of course, but by Boyce. He sniffed the air. "The trail goes right to it and stops, Lord Rand. How are we going to follow them now? I've heard if you go through a Waygate you come out mad, if you come out at all. It can be done, Hurin. I've done it, and Loial, and Matt, and Perrin." Rand never took his eyes from the tangles of leaves on the stone. There was one unlike any other carved there, he knew. The trefoil leaf of fabled Avendasora, the tree of life. He put his hand on it. I'll bet you can smell their trail along the ways. We can follow anywhere they can run. It would not hurt to prove to himself that he could make himself step through a waygate. I'll prove it to you, he heard Hurin groan. The leaf was worked in the stone just as the others were, but it came away in his hand. Loial groaned too. In an instant the illusion of living plants seemed suddenly real. Stone leaves appeared to stir with a breeze, flowers appeared to have colour even in the dark. Down the centre of the mass a line appeared, and the two halves of the slab swung slowly toward Rand. He stepped back to let them open. He did not find himself looking at the other side of the walled square, but neither did he see the dull silver reflection he remembered. The space between the opening gates was a black so dark it seemed to make the night around it lighter. The pitch blackness oozed out between the still-moving gates. Rand leaped back with a shout, dropping the Avendasora leaf in his haste, and Loial cried out, "Machine Shin!" The Black Wind. The sound of wind filled their ears. The grass stirred in ripples toward the walls, and dirt swirled up, sucked into the air. And in the wind 1,000 insane voices seemed to cry, 10,000 overlapping, drowning each other. Rand could make out some of them, though he tried not to. By voice, by voice, by voice. Blood so sweet to drink the blood that drips, drips, drops, so red. Pretty eyes, fine eyes, I have no eyes. Pluck the eyes from out of your head, grind your bones, split your bones inside your flesh, suck your marrow while you scream, 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 singing screams, sing your screams. By voice, by voice, by voice. And worst of all, a whispering thread through all the rest. All Thor, all Thor, all Thor. Rand found the void around him and embraced it, never minding the tantalizing, sickening glow of Sedin just out of his sight. Greatest of all the dangers along the ways was the black wind that took the souls of those it killed and drove mad those it let live, but Mashinshin was a part of the ways, it could not leave them. Only it was flowing into the night, and the black wind called his name. The waygate was not yet fully open. If they could only put the Avendasora leaf back. By voice, by voice, by voice. He saw Loial scrambling on his hands and knees, fumbling and searching the grass in the darkness. Sedin filled him. He felt as if his bones were vibrating, felt the red-hot, ice-cold flow of the one power, felt truly alive as he never was without it, felt the oil-slick taint. By voice, by voice, by voice, no. And silently he screamed back at himself from beyond the emptiness, "It's coming for you. It'll kill all of us." He hurled it all at the black bulge, standing out a full span from the waygate now. He did not know what it was that he hurled or how, but in the heart of that darkness bloomed a coruscating fountain of light. The black wind shrieked 10,000 wordless howls of agony. Slowly, giving way inch by reluctant inch, the bulge lessened. Slowly the oozing reversed, back into the still open waygate. The power raced through Rand in a torrent. He could feel the link between himself and Sedin, like a river in flood. Between himself and the pure fire blazing in the heart of the black wind, a raging cataract. The heat inside him went to white heat and beyond, to a shimmer that would have melted stone and vaporized steel and made the air burst into flame. The cold grew till the breath in his lungs should have frozen solid and hard as metal. He could feel it overwhelming him, feel life eroding like a soft clay riverbank, feel what was him wearing away. Can't stop if it gets out. By voice, by voice, by voice. Have to kill it. I cannot stop. Desperately he clung to fragments of himself. The one power roared through him. He rode it like a chip of wood in rapids. The void began to melt and flow. The emptiness steamed with freezing cold. The motion of the waygate halted and reversed. Rand stared, sure, in the dim thoughts floating outside the void, that he was only seeing what he wanted to see. The gates drifted closer together, pushing back machine shin, as if the black wind had solid substance. The inferno still roared in its breast. With a vague, distant wondering, Rand saw Loial, still on hands and knees, backing away from the closing gates. The gap narrowed, vanished. The leaves and vines merged into a solid wall and were stone. Rand felt the link between him and the fire snap, the flow of power through him cease. A moment more and it would have swept him away completely. Shaking, he dropped to his knees. It was still there inside. Side in, no longer flowing, but there, in a pool. He was a pool of the one power. He trembled with it. He could smell the grass, the dirt beneath, the stone of the walls. Even in the darkness he could see each blade of grass, separate and whole, all of them at once. He could feel each minute stirring of the air on his face. His tongue curdled with the taste of the taint, his stomach knotted and spasmed. Frantically he clawed his way out of the void, still on his knees, not moving, he fought free. And then all that was left was the fading foulness on his tongue, and the cramping in his stomach, and the memory, so alive. "You saved us, Builder." Hurin had his back pressed against the wall, and his voice was hoarse. That thing that was the black wind, it was worse than, was it going to hurl that fire at us? Lord Rand, did it harm you? Did it touch you? He came running as Rand got to his feet, helping him the last bit. Loial was getting up too, dusting his hands at his knees. "We'll never follow Fain through that." Rand touched Loial's arm. "Thank you. You did save us. You saved me at least. It was killing me, and it felt wonderful." He swallowed, a faint trace of the taste still coated his mouth. "I want something to drink." "I only found the leaf and put it back," Loial said, shrugging. "It seemed that if we could not get the Waygate closed, it would kill us. I'm afraid I'm not a very good hero, Rand. I was so afraid I could hardly think." "We were both afraid," Rand said. "We may be a poor pair of heroes, but we are what there is. It's a good thing Ingtar is with us." "Lord Rand," Hurin said diffidently, "could we leave now?" The sniffer made a fuss about Rand going over the wall first, with not knowing who was waiting outside, until Rand pointed out that he had the only weapon among them. Even then, Hurin did not seem to like letting Loial lift Rand to catch the top of the wall and pull himself over. Rand landed on his feet with a thud, listening and peering into the night. For a moment he thought he saw something move, heard a boot scrape on the brick walk, but neither was repeated, and he dismissed it as nervousness. He thought that he had a right to be nervous. He turned to help Hurin down. "Lord Rand," the sniffer said as soon as his feet were solidly on the ground, "how are we going to follow them now? From what I've heard of those things, the whole lot of them could be halfway across the world by now, in any direction. Verin will know a way." Rand suddenly wanted to laugh, to find the horn and the dagger. If they could be found now, he had to go back to the Aes Sedai. They had let him loose, and now he had to go back. "I won't let Mat die without trying." Loial joined them, and they went back toward the manor to be met at the small door by Mat, who opened it just as Rand reached for the handle. "Verin says you're not to do anything. If Hurin's found where the horn is kept, then she says that's all we can do now. She says we'll leave as soon as you come back and make a plan. And I say this is the last time I go running back and forth with messages. If you want to say something to somebody, you can talk to them yourself from now on." Mat peered past them into the darkness. "Is the horn out there somewhere? In an outbuilding? Did you see the dagger?" Rand turned him around and got him back inside. "It isn't in an outbuilding, Mat. I hope Verin has a good idea of what to do now. I don't have any." Mat looked as if he wanted to ask questions, but he let himself be pushed along the dimly lit corridor. He even remembered to limp as they started upstairs. When Rand and the others re-entered the rooms filled with nobles, they received a number of looks. Rand wondered if they somehow knew something of what had happened outside, or if he should have sent Hurin and Mat to the front hall to wait. But then he realized the looks were no different from what they had been before, curious and calculating, wondering what the Lord and the Ogier had been up to. Servants were invisible to these people. No one tried to approach them since they were together. It seemed there were protocols to conspiracy in the great game. Anyone might try to listen to a private conversation, but they would not intrude on it. Verin and Ingtar were standing together, and thus also alone. Ingtar looked a little dazed. Verin gave Rand and the other three a brief glance, frowned at their expressions, then resettled her shawl and started for the entry hall. As they reached it, Barthanes appeared as if someone had told him they were leaving. "You go so soon? Verin Sedai, can I not entreat you to stay longer?" Verin shook her head. "We must go, Lord Barthanes. I've not been in Cairhien in some years. I was glad of your invitation to young Rand. It has been. By Boyce. Interesting. Then, Grace, see you safely to your inn. The great tree, is it not? Perhaps you'll favour me with your presence again? You would honour me, Verin Sedai, and you, Lord Rand, and you, Lord Ingtar, not to mention you, Loial, son of Arant, son of Halan." His bow was a little deeper for the Aes Sedai than for the others, but still no more than a slight inclination. Verin nodded in acknowledgment. "Perhaps. The light illumine you, Lord Barthanes." She turned for the doors. As Rand moved to follow the others, Barthanes caught his sleeve with 2 fingers, holding him back. Mat looked as if he might stay too until Hurin pulled him to join Verin and the rest. "You wade even deeper in the game than I thought," Barthanes said softly. "When I heard your name, I could not believe it, yet you came and you fit the description, and by Boyce, I was given a message for you. I think I will deliver it after all." Rand had felt a prickling along his backbone as Barthanes spoke, but at the last he stared. "A message? From whom?" "Lady Selene. A man. Not the sort for whom I would usually carry messages, but he has. By Boyce, certain. By Boyce, claims on me that I cannot ignore. He gave no name, but he was a Lugarder." "Ah, you know him. I know him." "Fain left a message." Rand looked around the wide hall. Mat and Verin and the others were waiting by the doors. Liveried servants stood stiffly along the walls, ready to leap at a command, yet appearing neither to hear nor see. The sounds of the gathering floated from deeper in the manor. It did not look like a place where Darkfriends might attack. "What message?" "He says he will wait for you on Toman Head. He has what you seek, and if you want it, you must follow. If you refuse to follow him, he says he will hound your blood and your people and those you love until you will face him." It sounds mad, of course, a man like that saying he will hound a lord, and yet there was something about him. "I think he is mad. He even denied you are a lord, as any eye can plainly see, but there is still something. What is it he carries with him with Trollocs to guard it? What is it you seek?" Barthanes seemed shocked at the directness of his own questions. "The light illumine you, Lord Barthanes." Rand managed to bow, but his legs wobbled as he joined Verin and the others. "He wants me to follow, and he'll hurt Emond's Field, Tam, if I don't. He had no doubt Fain could do it, would do it. At least Egwene is safe in the White Tower." He had sickening images of Trollocs descending in hordes on Emond's Field, of eyeless Fades stalking Egwene. But how can I follow him? How? Then he was out in the night, mounting Red. Verin and Ingtar and the others were all already on their horses, and the escort of Shienarans was closing round them. "What did you find?" Verin demanded. "Where does he keep it?" Hurin cleared his throat loudly, and Loial shifted in his high saddle. The Aes Sedai peered at them. "Fain has taken the horn to Toman Head through a Waygate," Ram said dully. "By this time, he's probably already waiting there for me." "We will speak of this later," Verin said, so firmly that no one spoke at all on the ride back to the city, to the great tree. Uno left them there, after a quiet word from Ingtar, taking the soldiers back to their inn in the foregate. Hurin took one look at Verin's set face by the light of the common room, muttered something about ale, and scurried to a table in a corner, alone. The Aes Sedai brushed aside the innkeeper's solicitous hopes that she had enjoyed herself, and silently led Rand and the rest to the private dining room. Perrin looked up from the travels of Jane Fastrider when they walked in, and frowned when he saw their faces. "It didn't go well, did it?" he said, closing the leather-bound book. Lamps and beeswax candles around the room gave a good light. Mistress Tiedra charged heavily, but she did not stint. Verin carefully folded her shawl and laid it across the back of a chair. "Tell me again." "The Darkfriends took the horn through a Waygate. At Barthanes' manor. The ground under the manor used to be an Ogier grove," Loial explained. "When we built, by Boyce. His voice trailed off and his ears wilted under her look. Hurin followed them right to it. Rand wearily threw himself into a chair. I have to follow more than ever now, but how? I opened it to show him he could still follow the trail wherever they went, and the Black Wind was there. It tried to reach us, but Loial managed to close the gates before it could come all the way out. He coloured a little at that, but Loial had closed the gates, and for all he knew, Machin Sheen might have made it out without that. It was standing guard. The Black Wind, Matt breathed, frozen halfway into a chair. Perrin was staring at Rand, too. So were Verin and Ingtar. Matt dropped into the chair with a thump. "You must be mistaken," Verin said at last. Machin Sheen could not be used as a guard. No one can constrain the Black Wind to do anything. "It's a creature of the Dark One," Matt said numbly. "The Darkfriends. Maybe they knew how to ask it for help or make it help." "No one knows exactly what Machin Sheen is," Verin said, "unless perhaps it is the essence of madness and cruelty. It cannot be reasoned with, Matt, or bargained with, or talked to. It cannot even be forced, not by any Aes Sedai living today, and perhaps not by any who ever lived. Do you really think Padan Fain could do what 10 Aes Sedai could not?" Matt shook his head. There was an air of despair in the room, of hope and purpose lost. The goal they had sought had vanished, and even Verin's face wore a floundering expression. I'd never have thought Fain had the courage for the ways. Ingtar sounded almost mild, but suddenly he banged his fist against the wall. "I do not care how, or even if, Machin Sheen works on Fain's behalf. They have taken the Horn of Valere into the ways, Aes Sedai. By now they could be in the Blight, or halfway to Ter, or Tanchico, or the other side of the Aiel Waste. The Horn is lost. I am lost." His hands dropped to his sides, and his shoulders slumped. "I am lost. Fain is taking it to Tommen Head," Rand said, and was immediately the object of all eyes again. Verin studied him narrowly. "You said that before. How do you know?" "He left a message with Barthanes," Rand said. "A trick," Ingtar sneered. "He'd not tell us where to follow." "I don't know what the rest of you are going to do," Rand said, "but I'm going to Tommen Head. I have to. I leave at first light." "But Rand," Loial said, "it will take us months to reach Tommen Head. What makes you think Fain will wait there for us?" "He will wait. But how long before he decides I'm not coming? Why did he set that guard if he wants me to follow?" "Loial, I mean to ride as hard as I can, and if I ride Red to death, I'll buy another horse, or steal another if I have to." "Are you sure you want to come? I've stayed with you this long, Rand. Why would I stop now?" Loial pulled out his pipe and pouch and began thumbing tabac into the big bowl. "You see, I like you. I would like you even if you weren't Ta'veren. Maybe I like you despite it. You do seem to get me neck deep in hot water. In any case, I am going with you." He sucked on the pipe stem to test the draw, then took a splinter from the stone jar on the mantel and thrust it into a candle flame for a light. "And I don't think you can really stop me." "Well, I'm going," Matt said. "Fain still has that dagger, so I'm going. But all that servant business ended tonight." Perrin sighed, an introspective look in his yellow eyes. "I suppose I'll come along too." After a moment he grinned. "Somebody has to keep Matt out of trouble." "Not even a clever trick," Ingtar muttered. "Somehow I'll get Barthanes alone, and I will learn the truth. I mean to have the Horn of Valere, not chase Jack-o'-the-Wisps." "It may not be a trick," Verin said carefully, seeming to study the floor under her toes. There were certain things left in the dungeons at Faldara, writings that indicated a connection between what happened that night and... She gave Rand a quick glance under lowered brows. "Tommen Head! I still do not understand them completely, but I believe we must go to Tommen Head. And I believe we will find the horn there." "Even if they are going to Tommen Head," Ingtar said, "by the time we reach it, Fain or one of the other Darkfriends could have blown the horn 100 times, and the heroes returned from the grave will ride for the shadow." "Fain could have blown the horn 100 times since leaving Faldara," Verin told him. "And I think he would have, if he could open the chest. What we must worry about is that he might find someone who does know how to open it. We must follow him along the ways." Perrin's head came up sharply, and Matt shifted in his chair. Loial gave a low moan. "Even if we could somehow sneak past Barthanes' guards," Rand said, "I think we'll find Machin Sheen still there." "We cannot use the ways." How many of us could sneak onto Barthanes' grounds? Verin said dismissively. There are other waygates. Steading Tufu lies not far from the city, south and east. It is a young steading, rediscovered only perhaps 600 years ago, but the Ogier elders were still growing the ways then. Steading Sofu will have a waygate. It is there, and we will ride at first light. Loial made a slightly louder sound, and Rand was not sure whether it referred to the waygate or the steading. Ingtar still did not seem convinced, but Verin was as smooth and as implacable as snow sliding down a mountainside. You will have your soldiers ready to ride, Ingtar. Send Hurin to tell Uno before he goes to bed. I think we should all go to bed as soon as possible. These Darkfriends have gained at least a day on us already, and I mean to make up as much of it as I can tomorrow. So firm was the plump Aes Sedai's manner that she was already herding Ingtar to the door before she finished speaking. Rand followed the others out, but at the door he stopped beside the Aes Sedai and watched Mat heading down the candlelit hall. "Why does he look like that?" he asked her. "I thought you healed him, enough to give him some time anyway." She waited until Mat and the others had turned up the stairs before speaking. "Apparently, it did not work so well as we believed. The sickness takes an interesting course in him. His strength remains. He will keep that to the end, I think, but his body wastes away. Another few weeks, at most, I would say. You see, there is reason for haste." "I do not need another spur, Aes Sedai," Rand said, making the title sound hard. "Mat, the Horn, Fain's threat. Light, Egwene. Burn me, I don't need another spur. And what of you, Rand al'Thor? Do you feel well? Do you fight it still, or have you yet surrendered to the wheel?" "I ride with you to find the Horn," he told her. "Beyond that, there is nothing between me and any Aes Sedai. Do you understand me?" "Nothing." She did not speak, and he walked away from her, but when he turned to take the stairs, she was still watching him, dark eyes, sharp and considering.